When you first start RStudio, you see a view of the program that looks like this. On the left-hand side is the console, and you can type your commands or your script directly into the console, and the program will process them immediately. The problem with this is that anything you type, it's sort of lost as soon as it's processed. What you want to do is create a script file that contains all of your commands and scripts that you've created for an analysis. In order to create a script file, click this icon in the top left corner and select RScript. And now you'll see a new window has appeared in the top left, and this is your script file. You should type all of your script and all of your commands and functions into the script file so that you can save it and reuse it later. For example, I'll just type a script that creates a vector named x, and it's going to have the values 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And to save the script, you will simply click File, Save As, and I'm going to call it my script file, and click Save. It's a great idea to save your scripts because if you ever need to come back to analysis, suppose you've closed RStudio, but you need to revisit an analysis. Well, all you have to do is then open RStudio and then open the script that you saved. And then you can edit the script to revise your analysis or add to it. This is a great practice because oftentimes if you're doing research, you'll do your analysis and then you'll write a paper and submit it to a journal. Then 3 to 6 months later, the editor comes back to you and says, hey, can you revise your analysis? Well, by that point, you've probably forgotten what you've done. And if you have a script file, you can simply open it up, look at the file, and you'll know exactly what you did, and you can make the changes that were requested by the editor. If you've only done things by point and click, you'll have no record of your analysis. Script files are a great way to keep a record of your analysis. Returning to the example, we can see here I've created a vector x, and it has 5 numbers in it. And suppose I want to compute the mean of x. Now, in the script area, I've only typed the actual functions and created the objects, but nothing's happened yet. In order to execute the script or part of a script, you can highlight the part of the script you would like to run and then click the Run button. You can see down in the console area that it created the object x, and then when I computed the mean, I got the value 3. You can also see in the top right-hand corner that in the environment area, this is showing you all the objects that are stored in memory. Since I only created the object x, that's the only one that appears in memory. On the bottom right-hand side, you'll see a window that has several tabs. The Plots tab is where you'll see plots that you create. The Help tab is where you can get help with a function. And the Package tab is where you might install add-on packages, but that's something we'll talk about later. So for instance here, suppose I wanted to create a histogram of my values of x. You can see when I run it, it appeared in the plot window. When I ran it just then, I didn't highlight it and click Run. If you're using Windows, you can put your cursor on the line you want to run and click Control R. And I think you can do it on a Mac by clicking Command R. Anytime you edit your file, you'll see if it's not saved, the name of the file will be in red. So to save the latest version of your script, just click the little Save button. There are a couple of settings that RStudio uses by default, and I don't like them, and I recommend that you change them. If you click Tools, Global Options, there are 2 things you want to unselect in the options. One of them is this option here where it says Restore Most Recently Opened Project at Startup. Unselect that. I would make sure this is unselected. Restore Previously Open Source Documents at Startup. And also unselect the restore.rdata into Workspace at Startup. If you make sure those are not selected, then whenever you start RStudio, you're going to start fresh. That's a good idea because if you had been doing something in RStudio, and then 3 days later you come back to it and it restarts with all of this information loaded in memory, you might forget what you had already done. And that can cause you some serious problems when you're trying to create a new script file. So definitely unselect those options, and that'll prevent some trouble down the road. Many of the activities that we're going to do and some of the reading you're going to have to do about R are going to be contained in a file. It's an HTML file that follows a particular format. And here you can see an example. And what I want you to see is that in this format, you'll see these shaded boxes. Those shaded boxes contain R scripts that you can type directly into R. And when you run it, you should get the same output that's seen in that document. And it's usually preceded by 2 pound signs. So this part is the script that you can type yourself. And this shows you the result that you should get when you run that script in your program. Anytime you're reading these files, I recommend that you try running these example scripts that you're reading about in the file. And the reason is that R is very difficult to learn, and the more practice you have, the better it's going to be. Practice all of these example scripts and the readings that you're doing, and make sure you're getting the right output.